a win-win situation. On one hand, intended parents benefit from finally having what they have desired for so long. At the same time, surrogate mothers profit from the arrangement through the opportunity to increase their economic solvency and are thus able to take better care of their families. Therefore, the need for two desperate women are met. However, there is a historical fact to it that every one couple out of 9 couples is now infertile. Considering that it is a major health problem, so banning would not be an effective alternative for it. And over a period of time, for last we don't have legislation, but from 2002 it is deemed to be legalized. So huge industries has grown up. So in view of that, banning will not be the effective measure, and therefore in India, there has, as I said, there is no codification of law. Only guidelines are there, which were framed in 2005, and apart from that, there has been bill of 2010, then 13, 14, and now 15. Now it has changed to 2016, which has been discussed now, and 2016 happened to be the most effective bill, considered to that of 2010. Apart from that, in November 2015, there is an ongoing case in Supreme Court. The government has banned surrogacy for the foreigners, but personally I think it should not be banned because 60 to 70% of the client is the foreign client. If you ban surrogacy for foreigners, then ultimately it will lead to letting the business go underground. So in view of that, I recommend not to ban it. And as we have already discussed this, that India is a favorite destination because of the cost, because of has been produced as a reproductive tourist capital. Apart from that, the surrogate mother are easily available, easily speaking English, and highly paid doctors are there. Services are less expensive, and more important is our complicit Indian government, where regulation is not properly into place and less waiting time over here compared to the other jurisdiction. There is a close monitoring of surrogate mothers by commissioning couple as well as doctors. Availability of large pool of women willing to be surrogate, knowledge of English language, and moreover the birth certificate at the name of intending mother. Apart from there, even these statistics have already been discussed, where the poor women across the states are themselves convinced by their king to take up surrogacy for money. She received very less amount, major amount is being taken by the middlemen and doctors, and even these statistics has to be seen where illiterate women are much, it is somewhere around 51.7%, poverty plays a major role, 86.7% women who come for surrogacy are below poverty line. Delhi is one of the major capitals. There are been more than 400 registered clinics throughout India for surrogacy, and this industry has become 2.3 billion industry by now. So considering all this, I would strongly recommend about regulating the thing instead of banning it out. Thank you so much.
I would request, thank you very much, Sahu. I request ABHA MALHOTRA to present her paper, and I can also invite Mr. HASHMI to read his paper. DIVYANSHU. HASHMI and DIVYANSHU to read his paper, and for resolution. Fine. Come on the stage. Tushar to read resolution. Please come on the stage.
Good evening everyone. I can see very tired faces. So what I'm going to do is I made photocopies of my paper. I will not read the entire paper. I have copies for those who are interested in the case law, because my paper was really courts on surrogacy. And when I asked Mr. Gogna whether it is courts or Indian courts, he had specified that meant courts, which means the global jurisdictions. So going through the global jurisdictions and what courts have to say about in various jurisdictions is really an intensive work which cannot be put down in 5 minutes. So I suggest you take copies of this. But what I do want to say here at this opportunity is that we've heard about surrogacy, that it started with the Mahabharata time, with Dronacharya being the first instance, and thereafter Balram. But I don't know how many Christians and Muslims are here today in this gathering. I'm not here to start a religious debate. What I'm trying to point out is the long-term ramification of surrogacy. We all know that there is a sort of hostility between Christians and Muslims, and it can be traced to surrogacy. If you go to the Bible, there is a biblical character of Abraham who was God's friend, and God had decided to bless him with as many heirs in the heirs to him as there are stars in the sky. So he was 100 years old and yet he was childless. Then his wife offered his maid. His wife's name was Sarah. She was childless. She offered her maid Hagar to Abraham to bear him a child. And of that union became Ishmael, who is known as the founder of the Muslim race. And thereafter God decided to bless Sarah, and then Isaac was born, who is the founder of the Christian race. That's why Christians are called sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But the problem started when there was souring of relationship between Sarah and Hagar and Isaac and Ishmael, and that comes down even today after so many thousand years. So surrogacy is not just one word, it has ramifications that can affect generations. Generations which have been affected till today. Now I come to the moot point about the courts. I told you I have the paper. But just to point out few basics, the pioneer amongst the courts was UK. They were the first to pass the legislation because of the cotton baby case, in which the mother had pangs handing over the baby. And the deal was brokered through an American agency. So the act came in saying that we will not make the contract enforceable. It is only when the baby is handed over willingly will we ratify, so to speak, the surrogacy agreement. Similarly, US has very conflicting case law. For example, California is very acceptable to surrogacy, whereas New York calls it a void agreement and has stiff fines, penalties, even charges of felony for surrogacy. Then Australia and other jurisdictions hold the best interest principle. I come closer home to Thailand, where we had the baby Gami case, where the Australian commissioning parents had commissioned for a baby to be born from a Thai woman. She gave birth to twins, and the son and the daughter were born, and the son suffered from Down syndrome. He was abandoned by the Australian parents, and thereafter Bangkok decided to ban. Then we have the Indian cases. We've been hearing about it since morning, so I'm not going to repeat it. We've had the 2008 judgment by Supreme Court, thereafter 2015, where Supreme Court has banned it for the foreign nationals. But Indian courts have been pro-contract, and I would like to conclude here by saying contract alone is not enough. We have so many ramifications. For instance, in service law, there was a judgment penned by Justice Shankar, who was here, concerning service law. She was asking for maternity leave, and the union said that we will not give you maternity leave because you're not bearing the child. And he interpreted to say that maternity was not defined in the CCS rules, so she could be liable to get maternity leave by a principle of reading down, and therefore he granted her maternity leave, so on and so forth. There are various facets to this issue of surrogacy, and I would like to conclude here. Thank you very much. I take this opportunity now to invite Adil to give his presentation.
Thank you so much. About the surrogacy, we are discussing from the since morning. I'm not going in detail what is surrogacy and what kinds of surrogacy. Basically, we are having two kinds of surrogacy. One we call gestational surrogacy and second is traditional surrogacy. We all know about traditional surrogacy because it belongs from our history, or we can say it have a huge history behind it. But this gestational surrogacy, it is developed or came into existence in 1986. There is some case laws also, but in India, this surrogacy came into light in 2008 after the Manji Yamada case. That was the case of Japanese baby Manji Yamada, her name was. What my question is surrogacy is profitable for all or not? Of course, it is profitable for those who is affected from this thing where they are incapable to have a baby in their home. But what about those families, those are poor, those are not wealthy? Because by this surrogacy, the whole procedure, it will take near about 15 to 20 lakh. So they don't have right to get a baby. Of course they have, but their pocket will not allow. And after this whole scenario, what will be the consequences? The surrogate mother who asked for her about her health, about the compensation, because in my research, luckily I had met with some racketeer who were involved into the racket. So I had word with, unofficially of course, word with him, and I had asked how this racket works. So he told me about something which is, they call surrogate mother from Bihar or those flood affected areas where people are poor, or I can say poorer than poor. They have only one time food, or that food they are taking, it is what we had in our Haiti. That kinds of food they are taking one time, and they don't have any option. They are coming by such kinds of racketeers. They are calling them and forcing them to have some money. Of course, every human being has some own demands, desires. Everyone wants to fulfill it. So they came into the light and they came into the thing. So the main thing is surrogacy is profitable for all or not? From my point of view, it is not profitable for all. It is of course profitable for those who have money. Who do not have money, I cannot say, or I can't say that profit. The word profit is too vague for them. About the technology, of course we are lacking from the legislation. We don't have some set of norms. Of course, if we talk about the international scenarios, so there are different countries, they have set of norms, they basically illegalize this surrogacy thing. Of course, Supreme Court also suggested to government to ban this thing. Now, Supreme Court of the country is also suggesting to government that ban this thing. That this thing means commercialization of surrogacy, because that whole racket will come into the existence. So, this is my all summation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I request Divyanshu Saraswat to wrap up with his presentation, and I request him to keep it within 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, ma'am. यहाँ पर आप सभी ने सरोगेसी के ऊपर सुना होगा, लेकिन मेरा जो पेपर है वो सरोगेसी आफ्टर सरोगेसी के बाद में जो सरोगेट मदर है वो ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग की तरफ जा रही है। मैंने उस पर थोड़ा बहुत रिसर्च किया है, तो मैं आप लोगों से शेयर करना चाहूँगा। We all know that a family is complete when there is a child. A child is a gift of God, upon whose arrival the entire family, we all are celebrate with joy. However, not all couple in the world is so lucky to have their own child. So, what they can do have their own child? The answer is surrogacy. A new modern technique, language surrogacy is a process by which one can carry the baby of others until the birth of the baby with the help of modern facilities. You all know that surrogacy is of two types, gestational surrogacy or traditional surrogacy. Nowadays, most of the couple who are medically unfit and want to have their own baby goes for gestational surrogacy, because the baby here will not be genetically attached to the surrogate mothers, as both the egg and sperm used for the fertilization belongs to the biological parents, or one of the gametes may belong to the intended parents and the other gametes from the donor but not belonging to the surrogate mother. Commercial surrogacy is a written agreement between the genetic parents and surrogate mother, dealing with the terms and conditions to be applied during the whole course of pregnancy till delivery of the baby. Commercial surrogacy and human trafficking. In a recent study done by the National Reporter on trafficking in human beings of death, and also the report submitted by the same raised a question about the commercial surrogacy, that whether the women for commercial surrogacy were coming voluntarily or forcefully to become a surrogate mother. Jyotsna Gupta, senior lecturer in gender studies, Diversity University of Dutch, argues that India surrogate mothers are usually under enormous pressure from their husband and family. In countries where most of the population belongs to poor society, rights of women from that society were infringed and violated by the intermediary and the clinics for the money which was agreed to pay to the surrogate mother for the purpose of commercial surrogacy, because most of the money which she is about to receive from this surrogacy agreement were taken by the reproductive clinics and the brokers. In fact, we can say that for commercial surrogacy, the illiterate surrogate mothers from the poor background are in danger, because brokers and the clinics exploit their rights, and even sometimes they are forced to become the surrogate mother or egg donor. There is a huge demand of surrogate mother in the medical clinics or in reproductive industry by the needy couples for gestational surrogacy as well as the commercial surrogacy, as the demand of surrogate mother and egg donor is too high in the current scenario. In a human trafficking is a burning problem in India. Maintained that near about 80% of the human trafficking used to be done for exploitation, and the remaining portion for forced slavery. And India is considered to be the highest crime rate ratio in trafficking in Asia. According to the definition of the United Nations, trafficking is any activity leading to recruitment, transportation, harboring or receipt of person by means of threat or use of force or a position of vulnerability. At last, At last, I will give some suggestions. Need to be uniform international law to protect the rights, life and privilege of women. And unmarried women should not be allowed to serve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to wrap up this conference, I invite Tushar Sanu, advocate, to give the resolution. After all, when we meet together and we discuss an issue, there has to be a takeaway. What is the takeaway from today's symposium? So Tushar Sanu is going to give us the takeaway from this symposium. What are we going to do there? So he's going to read out a draft resolution that the HRDI intends to pass today.
Thank you, ABHA ma'am. Thank you, Rajesh sir, and good evening, everyone. Being the last speaker, I will not take much of your time and wrap this up pretty quickly. The resolution for today's symposium is as follows. Human rights activist institution organizations got together today at the symposium organized on the issue of surrogacy in India and discussed its various ramifications in the Indian context. It was observed that there are abysmal levels of poverty in various states of India which impels girls belonging to penurious families to resort to surrogacy for their basic rudimentary survival needs. It goes without saying that these girls belong to the lowest strata of the economic ecosystem, thereby resulting in their subdued aspirations for a better life. Surrogacy is turning out to be one of the most elementary options for them to procure the resources required for basic human existence, and they are left with no option but to become surrogate mothers. In other words, we can say that they are coerced to rent out their womb to prospective customers as a result of their abject poverty. The large number of poor girls from the flood-affected areas of Bihar and Nepal in this profession are a testimony to these facts. It is also a matter of concern that some of the girls who opt to become surrogate mothers are pushed towards immoral activities. We understand that surrogacy brings happiness to childless mothers, but the current business of surrogacy in promoting human trafficking, which is most unfortunate. This conference resolves that the Government of India should be called upon to consider this issue from the standpoint of hapless surrogate mothers and that it carry forward the following steps to ameliorate their conditions. Number 1. Steps should be taken so that human trafficking for the purposes of surrogacy should be immediately stopped. Steps should be taken by government agencies to effectively ensure that girls should not be coerced into surrogacy because of their financial compulsions or because of their abject poverty. The government regulatory mechanisms should be put in place to ensure surrogacy contracts are not entered into girls as a result of undue influence, fraud or coercion. The consent of the families of prospective surrogate mothers should be sought. The district magistrates of the hometown of the prospective surrogate mothers should investigate and certify the reason behind prospective surrogate mothers resorting to surrogacy and should also ensure that they are not being compelled into surrogacy due to her financial compulsions and is not being coerced into surrogacy. Government should put in place a mechanism to ensure registration of every surrogacy contract and should also maintain that a database of surrogate mothers for a period of 5 years from the date of delivery, which should comprise of their employment records and their well-being. A corpus fund should be formed and a surrogacy cess should be imposed, which should not be less than 10% of the surrogacy contract amount. This corpus fund should be utilized for the welfare of surrogate mothers. Government of India should also ensure that all surrogated mothers are provided requisite skills in order to enable them to secure jobs during the period of surrogated pregnancy for their long-term employment prospects. The Government of India should also ensure that the surrogate mothers are given lifetime medical insurance and survival allowances for a period of 3 years from the date of their delivery of their child, which should not be less than the minimum wages, and also mention the record of the surrogate mother. This conference finally resolves that a delegation of HRDI and other human rights organizations approach the Government of India to make suitable amendment in the bill and to ensure their strict implementation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tushar. I now request Bhavna ji to take over.
To conclude this session, I would like to invite Mr. Gogna to present memento to Mr. ADIL, DIVYANSHU, and TUSHAR. board members, our lead staff, Hema Sahu, Adil, Divyanshu, and our technical team, Rahul, Sugadi, Shrikant. And I really thank all the students, they are waiting patiently. It's really wonderful that our hall is 75% full. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And please join us for the tea. Please join us for a group photography.
माई बोर्ड कहाँ तक पहुँच गए यार?
मेरे कोई नहीं ना, और सब आ
फ्लैश
जाएगा।
बैटरी डाउन हो चुकी है बिल्कुल।
Cheese.
1 मिनट हाँ, वो बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया ना।
कुछ नहीं।
यस, बच्चों थोड़ा सा बेटा दबा के से। जब एक मिनट, बस एक मिनट सर, एक और ले लेता हूँ।
विक्ट्री साइन के साथ ही ले लेना।
जी?
विक्ट्री साइन के साथ सब लोग
अच्छा अच्छा, एक मिनट।
दे दें?
हाँ बोले, हाँ उठाइए ऐसे हाथ। यस, थैंक यू।